Ever since Cam Akers went down with a season-ending Achilles injury, Darrell Henderson's fantasy football ADP has skyrocketed. Let's break it down with SI senior fantasy analyst Michael Fabiano. And Fabs, Henderson, he was not really, he was sort of more of a handcuff entering this fantasy draft summer, right? But then Cam Akers goes down, and now Henderson is expected to be that number one guy. So what do we see out of this Rams running back in 2020 that could lead us to believe that he's a value in fantasy football this year?
He finished last season 36th in points among running backs, which is not all that great. But in the first 5 weeks, he scored 19 or more points 3 times. The other 2 games, he had under 5 points. So 3 of those first 5 games, he was pretty good. And he was a top 20 running back during that time. But ultimately, he lost his starting job to Cam Akers, as we know, got hurt late in the season, had that high ankle sprain, and really wasn't fantasy relevant for much of that season past those first 5 weeks.
I know you're great at digging up some interesting facts, stats, and trends. Anything on Henderson that we could take away?
So small sample size. He's only been in the league a couple of years. If you go back to his last year at Memphis, he averaged 8.9 yards per rush. He was bananas good, 13 games, averaged 18 touches. But a lot of his big games came against like Navy, Georgia State, and UConn, not exactly the powerhouses of college football. Still, a lot of fantasy analysts thought he would be a sleeper as a rookie. What happened? Well, he did nothing. He was 98th in fantasy points, despite the fact that Todd Gurley was ahead of him on the depth chart, and Gurley was declining. But Henderson could not break through and become a complementary piece in that backfield. What did the Rams do after that? They drafted Cam Akers, which means what? They didn't seem like Darrell Henderson was a featured back. They didn't have the confidence that he could be a guy who can shoulder the workload, right? So in 2 years in the NFL, Henderson was unable to see more touches behind a declining Todd Gurley. And last year, he lost his starting job to a rookie. He's very talented. He's a home run hitter. I do question whether or not he can be a true featured back in the National Football League.
Well, let's talk about how the Rams tend to use their running backs, because we saw it under Sean McVay. Todd Gurley finished as the number 1 or number 2 running back in back-to-back seasons. He was incredible before his decline. We saw what Cam Akers did at the end of last season, helped a lot of people win their fantasy championships. So how do the Rams, how do they typically use that running back? Because it seems to be a productive position no matter who's back there.
Right. So McVay, had Gurley there for 3 seasons. He was ridiculously productive. 2 top threes and an RB14 finish in his final season in Los Angeles. But the only other running back who's finished in the top 30 under McVay is Alfred Morris back in Washington in 2014. The bad news is that we all really thought Akers would be a featured back. McVay himself had said that he saw no limitations in what they could do with Cam Akers. The problem here is, though, I don't know that that's the same with Darrell Henderson. In fact, McVay's already come out, and you could see the quote over at The Athletic, my buddy Jordan Roderick. The quote from McVay basically is, the ability's not in question. The question is whether or not he can stay available. And that makes me wonder, Bill, if McVay is concerned about Henderson's durability, right? I don't think he's going to play at all in the preseason. If he does, it'll be very limited. Why? The Rams need to keep him healthy. And this is not LaDainian Tomlinson, where the Chargers used to keep him out to keep him healthy in the preseason because he wasn't durable. Just he had a lot of work, right? So I do question Henderson's durability. I think the opportunities are there. Volume is king in fantasy football. I have him ranked as a low RB2, rather have him as a high RB3. Only Xavier Jones behind him on the depth chart. Rookie Jake Funk also back there. But the Rams could still add a veteran running back. They said they won't do it right now. Doesn't mean they won't change their mind at some point in the next month or so. So if you draft Henderson, take him as a flex, as an RB2 that might be a little too rich for my blood. And keep in mind that not only is this guy not really succeeded in the NFL in 2 seasons, but his durability is at question as well.
All right, it is officially fantasy football draft preparation season. So make sure you get all of the great analysis from guys like Michael Fabiano, Frank Tadeo, and Sean Childs, all on Sports Illustrated. Go to si.com/fantasy.